Hi,
Hello.
everybody. Hello. Oh,
Go
wait.
ahead.
Am I doing it or you? Go ahead, Claudia. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say hi, everyone, and please go ahead, Asus.
Yeah, I was gonna say, hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. Another episode of Rework It. I am your host, Jesús Ramirez, and with me is my co-host, Kladi from Printmysoul. Hey, Kladi, how are you?
Hi, Asus. Well, and I'm on the other side, by the way. As you can tell, me and Asus are not in the same room, so we're trying to coordinate it when we go live in order to say hi to you in the chat. But I can see so many familiar faces. Can you recognize anyone in the chat, Asus?
Yeah, we have Sam helping us out. Thank you so much, Sam. We have Megan, Laura, Viola, Jan, Jotermia again. We did one of his pieces, I believe, on the first one.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm scrolling up. I see RB, Steve. Steve is back in the chat. Good to see you, Steve. He was on with us earlier with Colin. Actually, a lot of people here were on with Colin. Let us know in the chat if you're also with me and Colin earlier this morning. That's right, Viola, the Banana Crew. And if I'm not mistaken, Claudia will be working or finishing up one of your pieces and the second half of the show. Is that correct, Claudia?
Yes, correct. We're gonna have a look at InDesign, and we're gonna take an example. Because yesterday we already looked at Viola work, but we're gonna dig a little bit more into paragraph styles, because I know that a lot of people were talking about paragraph styles. So I'm gonna share some tips, and I'm gonna use some of Viola copy. And I want to say hi to Jen, Jotirmia, Ariana, Michelle. Thank you so much. RB, what's up? Thank you so much for joining us. And I can see someone commenting on the blue hair. So that's a special for our show. Everything is blue. I try to wear blue as well, just to match our little banner. But why don't we start with you, Asus? We start by talking about something special. I can see your shirt given already away. We're gonna be talking about.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier during Colin's stream, Adobe Max is coming up next week, October 20th to the 22nd. I'm actually wearing the Adobe Max speaker shirt. I just got it in the mail last night, so I decided to wear it for you guys today. Adobe Max is Adobe's flagship creativity conference. In case you're not aware, I've been a speaker there. I think this is my 5th year, I believe. And Claudia, this will be your first year speaking at Max. And
Yeah,
actually,
come on. I mean, yeah, last year I wasn't an official speaker. I was speaking with Adobe Live and working at the Photoshop booth. So it's my second Max that I'm part of the Max team, but
right.
first official speaker this year.
And not only that, if you click on their sessions in the max.adobe.com website and you scroll down, you can see all the different categories. And under graphic design, you'll see that Kladi is one of the featured speakers. That is, I just mentioned that I've been a speaker for whatever number of years, and I've never been a featured speaker, but Claudia, there she is, first year as an official speaker, and she's already a featured speaker. Also, big shout outs to my good friend Mark Heaps, who was last year's Adobe Max 2019's top speaker. So, as speakers, we all get rated and reviewed by you guys, the viewers. And my good friend Mark there had the highest reviews out of 200 plus instructors. So, big shout outs to him. But yeah,
That's fantastic.
Claudia is there alongside some amazing artists like Lauren Home and Stefan Sagmeister. So she's in
Yes.
there with good company. What are you going to be teaching at Max, Claudia?
First of all, I'm super honored to be there with some design heroes, and I have two sessions, one on print design. And actually, it's just if you jump into my Instagram, you'll be able to share how to. Oh, you have it already there. Fantastic. So if you just search my name, so if you head on max.com and then register and head to the schedule, you can search our names. The two sessions that I'm going to be sharing with you at Max are print design, so how to get from pixels to paper with InDesign, and building powerful Instagram assets with Photoshop. We're also going to be using a little bit of Illustrator in the chat, so feel free to go ahead and schedule your classes. We also have ASUS classes, correct?
Yeah, so I actually posted the link to your session in the chat. If Sam or one of the other moderators who might be there, they can make it clickable. Thank you so much, Sam. I see you just posted that there. Actually, you know what? It looks like Claudia's link there, Sam, didn't come through, at least on my end. Um, anyway, I'm sure you guys will figure that out. Let me post my link now in the chat for my sessions. I'm only doing one session twice. So see which time is more convenient for you. I'm going to be doing automation in Photoshop, indispensable time-saving techniques, and these are all just tips and tricks that will help you work faster in Photoshop alongside the new features of Photoshop 2021. So that's going to be really exciting. Like I said, there's two times, October 20th and October 21st. One of them is at 7 a.m. Pacific, and the other one is at 5 p.m. Pacific.
So I can see in the chat, Laura Staneva and Ariana said that they've signed up to my sessions. I'm really curious to see which one they sign up for. And of course, we are going to have some live chat. So make sure to join during the breakouts because you'll be able to ask any questions. We're going to be talking about new features in Photoshop, in InDesign. So I look forward to be there. And of course, I'm going to remember your names from here. Thank you so much for joining. I'm super excited. There are so many fantastic speakers, events. Today we have been briefed on the fantastic creativity conference that is going to come up. There are actors, singers, there's going to be music, there's going to be shops with amazing max discounts as well. It's going to be a fantastic experience. So make sure to stay. You'll look at Sneaks, which is Max Adobe Laboratories, where all new features are showcased for the first time before they actually get brought to life from the engineers. Is an amazing, inspiring event. And also make sure to ask any advice even during the stream, because it's an awesome opportunity for networking. So sharpen your profile, make sure that your Behance is looking nice, keep the profile that you like to show with some other wonderful industry expert, because it's your time to interact with your favorite designers.
That's right. And Steve is saying bring some wine. Definitely bring some wine.
Yes. Unless it's morning time, like in Europe.
And the last thing I want to talk about before we continue is the website, iamkladi.com/reworkit. iamkladi.com/reworkit. This is where you can submit your work. And I just want to ask you guys if you could submit work. We've been getting a lot of Photoshop stuff, so please keep submitting your Photoshop stuff, but we need a little more InDesign, a little more Illustrator. So this is your opportunity to be featured if you're working on those apps, InDesign and Illustrator. But if you have a Photoshop file, totally cool, keep submitting those. I'm just saying, because we have to make decisions on which ones to show for Photoshop since we've been getting a lot of stuff. But Illustrator and InDesign, please submit your work. Yeah. We'll be happy to feature you in the next episode.
And just to give an idea, logos, posters, menus, anything that a pattern or design for a t-shirt or stickers, even if it's work in progress, this is the entire goal of Rework It, to rework together and learn how to use these fantastic Adobe apps in order to create professional outputs. So as Jesus says, that's the website. Just click on submit your design, fill in the form, and me and Jesus will be able to handpick your work and get them featured during this stream. But Jesus, why don't we jump on, I believe, Photoshop?
Yeah, we're going to start with Photoshop today, and I just want to give a quick shout out to the artist who we're going to be working with. Her name is Anita Hampton, and this is her Behance account. Let me just paste the link on the chat there so that you guys could follow her and send her a message and say hello. So thank you so much. First of all, thank you, Anita, so much for submitting your work. She's from Woodbridge, Virginia, here in the United States. And actually, Kladi, you went to high school in Virginia.
Yes, I'm from Italy. I live in Manchester, but I actually spent almost 2 years in Roanoke, Virginia. So a big shout out to the Star City and also to all my pals in Virginia. And let me know, there is anyone from Virginia in the chat?
Yeah, we haven't asked where you guys are watching from, so let us know where you're watching from today.
And Jesus right now is in San Ramon, Bay Area.
Yeah, San Ramon, California, in the San Francisco Bay Area.
And I'm in Manchester, UK. So let us know where you're tuning in from.
And also, let us know, Anita, if you're in the chat. I emailed you earlier. I hope that you were able to make it. But this is her Instagram. If you want to follow her on Instagram, amhamp1014 on Instagram, you can check out her work. It looks like she does a lot of compositing work. And she's got an Etsy store, so make sure you check her out. Again, thank you for submitting your work. And let's look at the file that she submitted. Actually, it's a version of this file that we're going to look at. She used a puppy here, but in the file that she submitted, she used a cat. Oops, I thought I had it open. Sorry about that. Let me open it up so that we can see the file. And there it is. This is the composite that we're going to work with today. And It's pretty good. Let me know what you think about it in the chat. And yep, it looks like Anita is in the chat. Good to see you, Anita. Thank you so much for submitting. This is what we're going to work with today. Awesome.
So, Sus, I'm just going to reply to a few questions before we dive in. Jotirmia was asking if you can submit brand. Of course, branding projects are super welcome. Just if you have a logo or a full identity that you're in the process of developing, or you already developed, or you are just at your starting idea, maybe how to transform a sketch into a vector. We can cover any level from beginner to push to a little bit more of pro tips. And Laura, yes, type or illustration, love typography, love patterns, love illustration. I can wait to get my hands into your work and see how I can rework it together. But now it's Photoshop time.
Yeah. So this is the composite. It's overall very good. I can see that Anita has done a lot of things that are very good, and that are, she really thought about organization of layers and how things stack up on one another. There's a few things that I noticed that would vastly improve the composite, and they're mostly little detail work. And what I'll do is here, I'll show you guys a trick. If you hold Alt and Windows Option in the Mac and click on a layer I icon, you disable all the other layers. See that? See how they all disappeared? So that was by holding Alt and Windows Option in the Mac and clicking on a layer. And that will happen with any layer, not just the bottom one. I'm just going to go from top to bottom so we can check out the composite. So I was noticing that this layer really doesn't do anything in the final composite, because this layer number 6, which is the background, covers it. So I'll just remove it. Let's be a little bit cleaner. I noticed that there's a signature here. I'm not sure if this is your signature or not, but we have a signature. And usually with something like this, I like to place it at the very top of the composite when it's all completed and done, usually not so low in the composite, because you may cover it with other layers accidentally. So a keyboard shortcut to jump any layer to the very top of the layer stack is by pressing Control Shift in the right bracket key. That's Command Shift in the right bracket key on Windows, and it just jumps it to the very, very top of the layer stack. So let's see what else you have here. We have this cat shadow layer. So glad you named it. It looks like it's a smart object with a Gaussian blur. Pretty good. And we have the cat. Now, this is where I'm going to start talking about a few ways that you can improve this composite. When I zoomed into the composite, I noticed a couple issues. Number one is that the fur has this glow or this halo around it. And let me create a black layer mask so that we can better see it. See that? See how it's got this glow? And also, look at this right here. There's this sharp line going across. So I would try to fix that by doing a couple things. You can fix the glow in a couple different ways. It all really depends on how the layer mask was created. The first and easiest way will be to create a new layer, clip it to the layer below, Control Alt G on Windows, Command Option G on the Mac, select the brush tool, and then just maybe paint on those edges and see if that fixes it. If it doesn't, then you may need to try a different technique. In this case, it doesn't look like I did too good of a job. Maybe down here, it did a little bit of good, but overall, I don't think that this technique will work. So we'll try something else. And what I think that you should try is using a fur brush. If you don't have one, you can use something that's built into Photoshop, but you will have to enable it. If you go into the brush tool and you click on this down pointing arrow, you'll see the list of brushes. And by default, in all versions of Photoshop, except I believe it was 2018 and newer, they removed these legacy brushes, so you won't see them anymore. They'll be gone. You won't have the legacy brushes. So what you need to do is click on the gear icon and enable the legacy brushes from here. And that will append the legacy brushes group. And you can just go into default brushes. These are the brushes that were inside of Photoshop before. I think it was 2018. But the point is that if you're working on 2019 and newer, you're not going to see them. You have to enable them. And if you scroll down, you'll find a brush by my very good friend Bert Monroy. This one here, Dune Grass. You can select it, and now you can paint. Let me show you what this looks like. You can paint something that kind of looks like fur. See that? So we can use that to work on the mask. The one thing that I will do is click on the icon here to bring up the brush settings, and I'll disable color dynamics. Now look at the difference. Now when I paint, is just one solid color. See that? Before I was going from gray to black because those are my foreground and background colors. So that's what that option does. It just takes the foreground and background and you paint with all the colors in between. So now that I have that, I can delete this layer because I don't need it. And I can go into the shape dynamics and I can change my control into direction. So I can always have the hair pointing out. See that? See how I can create this, like basically this furball? See that? So I'm going to use that. Oops, I deleted the cat. Let me undo that. I don't want to delete the cat. What I'm going to do is create a layer mask. And then I'm going to go into the lasso tool. And I'm just going to, I mean, ideally you want to do this on the entire cat, but obviously for the sake of time, I'm just going to work on this part. And then you can just do the rest of the cat. But what I'm trying to do here is basically create that straight edge so that I can come in here with my brush tool, or if you wanted to, your Wacom tablet. I have a Wacom tablet with me. I was working on a personal project earlier with my Wacom tablet. So what I can do now is paint with white on this cat layer like so, and try to follow the fur that's actually found in the actual layer. And to be frank with you, I wasn't paying attention to which way the fur was pointing. So actually the fur is going the other way. So what I would need to do
real
is,
attention to detail.
yeah, I need to undo these steps and go into the I'm sorry, to the brush tools here, the brush settings, go to brush tip, and I can just flip X. And then when I paint, I think, yep, I can now the fur is facing the other way. So I can just paint that in accordingly. Obviously, I'm going fairly quickly here, but what you want to do is...
Sorry to interrupt you, but I don't know if you've seen that Anita is actually in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Because
yeah, Anita is in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have more comments, and we have someone that is called Julie from Italy that is in the chat saying hello as well.
Awesome. Hi, Julie. What part of Italy are you watching from, Julie?
It's my mom, sis.
Oh, it's your mom. Oh.
That's how I was being a little silly, but yeah, she's saying hello.
Yeah, well, I always refer to her. I've never referred to your mom as Julie. That's what I was like.
Okay, that's super funny.
Cool. So we have. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Ariana was just looking at the way that you were changing direction with the fur, which I think is super cool, and the cat looks so cute. So please go ahead. We're loving it.
Yeah. So obviously, I would need to do this, throughout the entire cat so that I can get that fur looking much more realistic. See that? And in some cases, you might be thinking, well, yeah, that looks great, but actually in my image, the cat has depth of field, like maybe the head's in focus, but its tail is not in focus. So what would I do in that situation? You would do exactly what I just did here. And then you can go into the blur tool and just blur the mask. See how I'm just blurring the mask now? So you start creating that effect, that depth of field effect, if your image requires it. In this case, I'm not so sure I would need it, but I'm just gonna add it now that the rest of the cat does have blurry edges, so at least it matches more with this composite. But you can always blur your mask just to get better results. And let's continue working with the cat. I think that overall, Anita, you did a good job here in the cast shadow here. The one thing is I think you just went around the entire cat too much, and it necessarily wouldn't work like that in the real world. Is basically what you were trying to do is a contact shadow. So basically when the cat is putting his body on the surface, so you might be better served to not necessarily do an entire, just like a block underneath the cat. It might be better to just paint on the cat, so not on the cat, but like directly below him. So maybe, just directly, oops, and I'm not painting with black. I should be painting with black or whatever the shadow color is. And you know what, now that I'm using the Wacom tablet, I kind of have to change my workflow a little bit. But what I would do in this case is go into my transfer dynamics, and then an opacity control. I could probably do like pen pressure and probably do the same thing for flow jitter. That way I can build on that shadow and not necessarily paint completely black on the first brush stroke. So I can just build on it, and then in some areas, it'll be much darker. In other areas, not so dark. And like maybe in this area is much darker, but not so much on the paw. And just try to see where the contact between the cat and the, I'm guessing, table will happen. And that's where you want to have the brightest areas, but you don't want to go too far out. You want to stay in as close as you can. And then I noticed that in your layer, you did something that was very good. You blur the shadow, which is maybe something that I will do as well, because I think it's looking a little too sharp for my liking. So what I'll do is I'll go into filter, blur, just like you did. I saw the layer, it had a blur on it. That's too much, obviously. So just add a tiny little bit of blur. And then what I'm gonna do now is just duplicate that layer, Control J, Command J on the Mac, and then go into filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I'll blur this one much, much more. Maybe something like that. And then I can bring the opacity down accordingly. If the one below it also needs an opacity change, you can do that. Whatever works best. So I'll select these two layers, put them into a group, Control G on Windows, Command G on the Mac. And if I want to be organized, I would name the layer shadow if I spelled it correctly. And this is what you had, and this is after. Obviously needs a little bit of work, but what you're trying to do is to really try to make it feel as if the cat is putting his body weight on the table. And since you have just like this soft stroke going around the cat, it kind of feels like he's levitating. I don't know if that makes sense. And I could probably do a little more work here and maybe this area. You know what? I could probably just get away with it if I move the layer up a little bit. But, you're just trying to create those contact points on the table. And that's really what you're trying to do with that shadow. Let me see. I'll just keep moving up the layers. So you did a really good job here, by the way, with the fishbowl and the way that you mask these layers and you use different blending modes and opacities to make it happen. I think that you did a fantastic job here. So really, really good job. The one thing I would say is that if you're looking at water through a fishbowl, there might be some distortion going on, even if it's a little bit. There will be some distortion going on. So I'm just gonna take the lazy way out and I'm just gonna make a selection, around these parts in the fishbowl like so. And then I'm just gonna press Control J, Command J on the Mac to, actually, let me think of what would be the best way to do this. Actually, I'll duplicate the layer and then I'll delete the layer mask. Oh, is my Photoshop freezing on me?
So RB in the meantime is saying that he thinks that the water is a bit too dark for the light background and the water surface lines need some brightness. And by the way, since I already interrupted you, I just wanted to say hello to our dear friends Andrea that is here, and she actually lives in Maryland, very close to Virginia, and we usually hang out pretty much every time. I've been Max already 2 times, and I've always been hanging out. I think that's we were hanging out all together. I remember at a LinkedIn party or something like that a couple of years ago. It was absolutely a blast. So thank you so much for joining us here, Andrea. It's always a pleasure. And I can see John that is on fire today, making a lot of jokes about the 90s. And I'm here giggling quietly next to you, but I'm really keeping my eyes on the chat also. Hi, Hodes, and hi, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for joining us. And let's go and keep. What do you think about RB comments, Jesus?
I'm sorry, what was RB's comment?
Regarding the water. RB was saying the water is too dark and the first surface needs some work.
Yeah, we definitely need to work with all of that, and I'll be working a little bit on the water. And let me look at the time because I don't want to eat up all the time. But yeah, so what I did now is place a duplicate layer of the cat in a new layer, and then basically block them in with a layer mask on the fishbowl. And what I'm going to do now, and something that I should have mentioned, is I unlinked the layer from the layer mask so that I can now move the cat around inside of that layer mask, and it creates this effect you see there. See that? So basically what I'm going to do now is just maybe enlarge the cat a little bit just to create that illusion that it's not really the same. And obviously you can play around and fine tune it and decide where it goes, but sort of to just create the illusion that we're actually looking through water and glass, and it's creating that distortion. And obviously I would need to go in here and paint with black to hide the distortion there above the water, like so. And again, you need to spend a lot of time fine-tuning these little details, but this is what you have to do. So that's before and after, and just creating that that, you know, like I have a water bottle here, and if I look through my water bottle, what I see on the other side wouldn't necessarily be just like a clear, transparent background. Um, cool. Let me see if um, the next thing that I noticed. Let me just.
Sorry, I'm reeling here, but John is really on fire. So he's saying to the fish, this stream is basically a horror.
Definitely. Another thing that I think you should probably work on, Anita, is the shadow. So you did a really good. I like the shadows look good. The one thing that I don't know if it necessarily looks well is the perspective of the shadows. They're kind of leaning towards the left, and also this contact shadow, what should be the contact shadow. Where is it? Is it this layer? Not that layer. Is it this layer? Yeah, this layer. You see how we have, you know, this weird shadow here. Just makes it seem like it's, again, sort of floating and not in place. So it wouldn't necessarily be so dark on that side. It might be just a little dark, not as much. So this is a like a trick, I guess you could call it, that I like doing. Erase everything and then paint it all back in. Oh, it looks like you actually painted it really nicely in there. All right, not to worry, it'll still work. What I'm trying to say. So paint everything back in, and then go into edit, fade brush tool, and now I can fade it to 0 or just fade it in a little bit. So I don't necessarily want to get rid of the entire thing, but, you know, just fade it in lightly, like so. And also, I'm not sure where that line is coming from. You see how there's this line here? So it's probably one of these layers. So you have to be really careful with these lines, and it looks like that one is coming from this layer. See that harsh line there? It's coming from the fishbowl. So I'm not exactly sure which of these layers is causing that. Oh, it's this one here, it looks like. So you got to be really careful that you you know, erase these lines that are really noticeable when you zoom in or when you print layers. But, you know, just be careful with those. What I'll do now is continue working on this shadow. And to be frank with you, probably the easiest thing to do will be just to start from scratch with these shadows. And again, just because we don't have a lot of time, I'll take the easy way out, which is using the polygonal lasso tool and then just, you know, creating a shadow that sort of matches the scene a little bit better. Just because, look, you have your light source back here. The light's coming from the window. So then the shadow will be coming towards us. And it's probably not going to be a strong shadow anyway. So you can definitely start with, you know, black or whatever shadows are in the scene. There's not too many shadows in the scene, so I guess we can get away with black. And go into filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and that might be okay actually. Or no, it's too much. Yeah, maybe something like this, and just bring it way down. And then maybe I like something you did. You actually had like 2 different shadows. So maybe in this case I would also like duplicate it and then maybe adjust the perspective a little bit just so that it's a little different. Oh, did I do it in the same layer? Oh wait, I didn't duplicate it. Oops, sorry about that. I thought I duplicated the layer. Let me try that again. And I don't know, just distort it a little bit so it's different. And then maybe I'll also adjust the opacity or something. But the point is that you can keep building on those shadows. Another thing that I think you need to focus on is when you're compositing images together, you always have to composite to the lowest common denominator in terms of quality. So see how the quality of this is not very good? It's kind of blurry, and it makes sense. We're looking at it through a fishbowl, but then we look at the fish and they're much sharper. See how much sharper they are? So the detail between these two right here, like perfect example, the detail between these two doesn't match. So I would go into the fish, I guess they're all here, into the fish group, this one here. And I would just convert that into a smart object and then go into filter and blur it. I'll zoom in so we can get a similar blur. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and obviously that's way too much. So just find the blur that is, you know, similar to what's there. Also work on the mask. See how much blurrier the masks are here than on the bubbles. So make sure that you do that. And I noticed that in some areas you have leftover pixels from the mask. Make sure that you get those. Like I said, your composite looked great from far away. I think what you need to do is zoom in and just look at this little details. Use the hand tool to just, let me zoom in and show you what I mean. So zoom in and just use the hand tool to analyze the composite like so, and then you'll come across things like that, like, you know, that you might have accidentally missed just because you were probably working at a you know, in this level, and in this level things look great, but when you start zooming in, you really start seeing those details. Also, let me see if I
Jesus,
can.
we have a question before you move forward. John was asking if we can add, and I'm gonna absolutely pronounce it wrong, if we can add some caustic to the bowl. Let me see, to the water. Let me just
Oh,
try
right.
to
Yeah.
scroll
Yeah.
back.
So so you
On the
definitely
table, on
could.
the table.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you definitely could. To be frank with you, the easiest way would be probably to like composite it in. But you definitely could. Let me find an image really quick, like an Adobe stock, and I'll put one in there. Good suggestion. Let me just go, and I know you guys can't see Adobe stock on my screen yet, but you will be able to see it in just a second. Give me 1 second here,
What sort of
and
magic are you having there?
there we go. We have you know, I would probably find something that will look good on the table. I could probably even put table maybe, and then and see what happens.
That's pretty much what you were saying yesterday, to try to use a stock that already have as many components as you need in the image in order to speed up your workflow, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And again, I'm not finding anything that I want, and I mean, I'll say glass, but it's probably not what we want. Glass, it'll be like a cup. You know what? Like, I might take something like this and then make it work just for the sake of time. Yeah, I mean, you know, because as we were talking about in one of the streams, I don't know if it was yesterday's stream with you or with Colin, but sometimes finding the right stock image is probably what takes the longest in this process.
I think that it happened in both streams. Yesterday you were reworking Sean work, so I think that came up. But also with Colin, you guys were saying that you probably spent a ton of time searching for images, probably more than actually in creating the composite. And Anthony is asking, where can we share our work? So I hope we have Sam in the chat. They'll be able to share the link, which is iamkladi.com/rework it, and then all you have to do is to click on the blue button on the top and upload your work and of course your name. So we really look forward to receive your work. That's an amazing question. I'm gonna paste the link in the chat right now, but hopefully, oh, Sam has been super fast. Thank you so much, Sam. Already done. So just click on the link, submit your work, and we look forward to review it. But let's keep going.
Obviously, this is not the best in the world, but you know, I think you guys will get the idea. You know, so just maybe adding a little bit of that, like so, and then change it to the screen blending mode. And I could then use maybe, you know, it's barely noticeable. So I'm going to go into image adjustment. Oh, actually I already have a levels adjustment there. So I'll just try to make it work as best as I can. And maybe I can duplicate it and might create a stronger effect. And to be frank with you, I'm not really happy with the way these are looking. So maybe I need to make them even darker and brighter. But the point is that, you know, with this effect, you can, you know what, I'm not getting true white. So it might be because I'm on RGB. I'm trying to see why I'm not getting, oh, do I have I might have like a layer mask or something on there. Let me, or I'm going to put it at the very top of
an adjustment that is affecting that layer as well.
I don't know which one it is. So I'll just set it to screen here and then fix it with a mask. Let me just get the right.
That's the beauty of the live. And we always welcome your requests. So as I usually say, well, as Susie's getting the to the right setting there with it's looking great, but as I always said, use these streams to ask questions. We're always happy to answer. And idea, Jen, as I said, you're on fire today, so we're really happy to have this advice and these requests from the chat, so keep them coming. And Robert is saying that it was during calling stream. That means that he's following you along. Nice. Robert.
Nice, Robert. Thanks for watching all the streams. But yeah, anyway, so that was your suggestion there. And to be frank with you, I'm not really happy with the stock image that I used, but that's the technique that I would use. I would find something ideally that is black and white. If it's not, I would make it black and white and then use the screen blending mode, and with levels just adjust the brightness. But you know, in these couple minutes, that's the best I could find, the best that I could do. But very, very good suggestion. The next thing that I wanted to mention is I did blur this layer here that blurred the fish inside the fish bowl, but I don't want to blur the stuff here. So this is a layer mask. So I can actually make a selection on top there, fill it with black. Black is my background color, control backspace, command backspace on the Mac. So now the blur effect is only applying the fish in the fishbowl. So the one up here is a bit sharper. And yeah, like I'm looking at the time, and you have to go on pretty soon, Claudia. I believe in the next 5 minutes you have to start working.
Yes, we'll jump. Well, I'll give some little tips in InDesign, but I'm really enjoying this, and I'm loving that kitty looking through the fishbowl. It's so cute. You know,
Yeah.
guys.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah,
What was that?
no, it's all right. Just that I had some comments earlier on in the chat saying that people knows that I'm a cat lover, and I absolutely, I absolutely am. So I'm really enjoying this composite.
Yeah. So I guess we can finish it off by doing some of the other things that you guys have seen me do in other composites, which is putting everything either into a smart object or into a new layer to apply a global adjustment. In this case, I'm not going to use a smart object because Anita has a lot of layers, which is good. So in this case, I don't want to necessarily slow down the filters that I'm going to apply. So as an alternate technique, I'm going to take all the layers below and jump them into a new layer as a flattened layer. And to do that, just select the topmost layer, press Control Alt Shift E, Command Option Shift E on the Mac. And usually I call this layer Final. And then I convert it into a smart object, and I can apply a filter to the entire scene. So I can go into Filter, Camera Raw Filter. And I can just go down the list and see what I want to apply. You know, I can make this into a warmer scene, a cooler scene. Maybe a little bit warmer might be the way to go. In this case, I could also use a radio filter maybe, and then maybe create, in this case, it's going to change the shadow. So I would need to go back and change the perspective of the shadow. But if I wanted to, I could create like a nice highlight here for my scene. Oops, and it looks like I didn't do that properly. Let me try that again. I think my Photoshop is being a little buggy here. I'm not sure why that's not showing, but anyway, it should be showing that highlight. But the point is that you can come in here and continue making these global adjustments to better match your image texture and clarity to make the image pop, add a little bit of vibrance, which I think in this case actually helps. And of course, going into the effects panel and adding a little bit of grain. You guys know that I like adding grain to my composites just so they feel more like film and less digital. See how blurry all this is? And since this is a composite, some images have a lot of JPEG compression artifacts. There's a lot of banding. So I think that the adding just a little bit of grain helps hide a little bit of that. It helps everything come together much nicer. So, you know, it's something that I like doing. And I also like, in this case, I think adding just a tiny little bit of vignette might help us center the cat a bit better. And of course, we can fine tune this all day, you know, just to make the image better. I think the one thing I will do is I'll come and play with my calibration here maybe, and then maybe start adding or subtracting some of these colors to enhance the effect. See how if I drag it to the left, look at the cat's fur. If I drag it to the right, I kind of like it more. Maybe with the blue, we'll get some nice results there in the fishbowl. You know, we can make it really cyan or less cyan, or maybe more saturated, less saturated. So you can start adjusting these to get a better color grade in your image. And of course, you can fine tune it all day long. I'm just gonna press OK so that we can see the difference between adding the camera raw filter and just leaving it as we had before. See that? See how by just making those little adjustments, we gave it a warmer tone and it feels more cohesive. You may like it better, you may not. Let me know in the chat. Also, last thing that I'll do is I'll go into Window in History. Oops, I added the histogram, not history. Windows in History. I can click on the little camera icon to create a snapshot, and I can see the original image that we started with and the reworked image done here at Rework It. Before Rework It, after Rework It. Let me know what you're thinking.
That's super cool. Everyone is giving compliment to Anita. I can see Anita, RB saying, Anita, good work. Ariana is saying, Anita, great work. I love this support. This is the beauty of the community. And also, John was saying, wouldn't the cat be magnified through the water?
Yeah,
Didn't
that's
I
something
think
that
we did?
we covered. So as you can see, I think it was this layer. See, and you can obviously keep fine tuning it as much as you want or need in order for that to look good to your eye.
Fantastic. So, Michelle has a question, Jesus. Is the difference between stamp visible versus merge layers into smart object? Um, is that you can go back working with your layers with the smart object?
Yeah, so the reason so I'll answer your question. I'll explain with more context. So I could have taken all the layers that Anita had and put them into a smart object, and in my case, in this computer, it probably wouldn't be an issue. But if I were working on a slower computer, perhaps a slow laptop, having a giant smart object and then apply filters to it might slow down the entire thing. So an alternative is to create a new layer that contains all the layers, and I can convert that into a smart object and apply a smart filter. The reason that you want to convert that stamped or that merged layer into a smart object is so you can have two flexibilities. Number one is you have the flexibility to go back into the camera raw filter and make an adjustment if need be. So maybe you're unhappy with, maybe the grain, maybe you want more grain, and you can increase it, press OK, and then that grain is applied. The second reason is maybe you realize that you made a mistake and you now want the cat, to be a little bit higher up or something like that, right? And obviously in this case, I would probably have to adjust the layer mask just to make sure that it works. But now the cat is higher up. So what do? Well, you can press Control A on Windows, Command A on the Mac, then Control Shift C to copy everything in not just one layer, but copy all layers. And I can go back into the smart object, double click on the layer thumbnail, and then paste. See that? See how now I have two copies basically? And when I close the smart object and save it, the filter is applied to that new version of the composite. So you still have the flexibility to edit it while having while being able to work a little faster. Like I said, in this case, with my computer and the number of layers, and it might have not been that big of a deal having the smart object contain all the layers. We're working with about 4,500 pixels wide, so it is not a small file. So, in this case, it's right on the edge for me, but I decided to do the single layer because it's just the most flexible way to go for most people.
Fantastic. I think you've done a great job, Anita and Jesus. That was a great rework it. We got about 15 minutes left. So I'm going to just jump into my computer. And part of our rework it, we've seen with Jotirmia the first time. And then yesterday with, wasn't Laura. I need to find the right name. With the other
yesterday
tactic.
we had Sean, and I'm sorry I don't remember the other person we had on yesterday.
I'm gonna find her. I'm gonna find her, and I'm gonna actually I'm gonna jump into your screen as while I go into my notes.
All right. Well, while we're on my screen,
yes.
while we're on my screen, again, I thought I had it up. Let me bring it up. While we're on my screen, once again, thank you so much, Anita, for submitting your work. Here is Anita's Behance. Make sure that you follow her on Behance. And I think I read in the comments that she's not in Virginia. She's really close to Virginia. She's in Maryland, I think she said in the comments. And this is her Instagram, amhemp1014 at Instagram. Make sure you check her out. Her Etsy store is there. You can check that out as well. And check out our work. Thank you so much, Anita.
So fantastic. I actually found the artist that we featured yesterday, Loredana Kodao. I got confused with Laura that is in the chat. So I was like, Laura, Loredana? I wasn't sure. So I just want to double check. So we seen yesterday, we have different examples. Sometimes we do a full rework kit like we just did with Jesus and we did with Jotirmia. Then in Loredana Kodao, she did this gorgeous illustration. So the only thing that we did was showing how to mock them up in order to have a different way of showcasing your work. Maybe if you want to sell a print. And yesterday we were looking in some tips thanks to Biola work. So this is Biola page. We were already here yesterday. If you want to go ahead and follow work, you can find under behance.net/s Biola 69 39, and the work in particular that we were having a look at was this flyer. And many of you had some questions regarding paragraph style, so I decided to use this time during Rework It to give an example and share some tips in InDesign, and in particular with the paragraph styles. So I'm going to jump into the InDesign, and I've copied some of the text from Biola text here, which was the comments of the review and the names. And yesterday we saw that Biola was using different box to style the text, and today I wanted to show you how to use paragraph style to style them, but even more how to use a super fantastic technique that is called next paragraph. Now let me know in the chat right now who those from you my English is gone, it's like almost midnight here, so I should probably stream in Italian at this time. Who in the chat has ever used next styles and applied next styles while applying their paragraph styles? I'm very curious to know how many of you know and have used that before. So please go ahead.
I definitely haven't.
So Jesus hasn't, so no rising hand here in the stream. I can raise my hand because I've used it. So RB say next paragraph is the best. Fantastic. So we have one person so far. Let us know. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to head on behance.net/live, because that's the chat that we are interacting with.
Yes.
We can reply to now. Jesus can perhaps see if there is someone else that has used next style. If not, not worry. We got a few minutes. We can tackle that hopefully during these minutes that we got left here. So as I said, all the text that you can see here in my document is simply the text that I've lifted from Biola document. So if we go back into the thread show, we can see there is a comment, then the name of the person, perhaps the client who's leaving the feedback, and then where they were from, and so on. So this particularly made me think about next styles, because we have different style and different category that repeated themselves. That also happens with question, answer, and next style will help you to style much faster. So I got 10 minutes, maybe less, so I really have to be fast here. So I'm just gonna give some very quick styling. So all I have to do is to select the first comment, then head to my character style and select a font of choice. I'm really loving to use Dean lately, so I'm gonna use Dean Light for this, and I'm gonna give it a space after of 2 millimeters and a space before of 5 millimeter, which of course we cannot see at the moment because there is no paragraph before. Click on the little plus in order to create a new style under the paragraph style, and double click for further edits. In this case, I'm gonna name it comment. Again, if you don't know how to find your paragraph styles panel, you can find it under window. Then I'm gonna go ahead and select the client's name and details. And in this case, I'm gonna start by clicking on plus to create a new paragraph style, double click, and I'm gonna call this one client details. And in order to see a particular difference, I'm gonna make this blue, and I'm gonna use another character, font that I use very often, which is integral, and we can use the regular. We can see that it's nice and big, so we can reduce the size to perhaps 6 points, maybe 7 points, just like so, and then click on OK. Now all we have to do in order to apply the rest of the style to the rest of the text is to go back into our paragraph style. So if we go back into client details, and remember, you need to at least have 2 paragraph styles in order to use this fantastic technique. We're gonna head under general and then select next styles. In this case, we're gonna use the comment, because after the client, a new comment comes in and then a new client comes in, and then press OK. And then when we head back to our comment, we double click, and in the next style, in this case, we're gonna have the clients. So they're all nested. And then I'm gonna click on details, just like so, and then click on OK. And then all we're gonna have to do is to select our text here, and then we can double click on the first paragraph that we want to show. So for example, the first one is the comment, so I'm gonna click on apply comment and then next style. and look what happens here. The entire text gets styled right away with the two styles that we have selected. If I'm going to click away, we can see very quickly that everything is styled. We have the comments that are look all nice the same, and we don't even have to click. But now bear in mind, and that's what I've done here, I've used a simple, I've used the paragraph break only when the paragraph changed. So make sure that when you have your text back into your basic characters, basic paragraphs, so you have no style applied, you are very careful to where your breaks are located. And if you don't see these hidden characters, there is a shortcut to bring them up, and the shortcut is Option Command I on Mac. That's Alt Control I on Windows. This is a fantastic way to apply style. Again, you need to create 2 paragraph style at least in order to tackle this trickle effect. Then select your text, and when you select the first paragraph, right click. And I just wanted to say that over and over again, many people don't know how to use next style, because once they apply it, let's see what happens there. If I just apply one style to my paragraph, the next style is not going to trickle down and apply the next style. We need to make sure that we select the text and right click into our paragraph style name in order to bring out this fly out menu, and then make sure that we apply comment, which is the name of the paragraph style that we wanted the first paragraph, and then next style. So this option, and I'm gonna actually zoom in so you can see it nice and clear, this option needs to be selected in order to create this wonderful trickle effect. So imagine if you're also styled, as I said, headings, or in a book, in a magazine, you have heading and body copy, heading and body copy, or question, answer. All you need to do is to style your first 2 paragraphs, select it all, make sure that you select the right one, right click, boom, done. So this is a fantastic technique. And also, you can go back and at any time, as we will always do with your character style, and go ahead and double click into your paragraph style and then edit. So for example, the comment, it looks like the text is a little bit too big. We can go into the basic character format, and we can make the size a little bit smaller. And as you can see, because we have a paragraph style applied, these edits will apply to the entire text. And of course, make sure to change preview, to click on preview to make sure that the changes happen live. We can also take care of the iPhoneation here. And if we wanted to change this black color into a blue color, fantastic. We have to do it only once and it gets applied everywhere. But now let's see what happens when we then apply some character style here. If we, for example, want to make sure that the name stays in blue, the name stays in blue and the actual location is of a darker color, all we have to do is to select the text and click on the plus under the character style. And again, if you don't see those panels that I have right here, I know that we have just a few minutes left, so I just jumped right into the feature because I want to make sure that I could share it with you. There are multiple ways in which you can bring up those very useful panels, and usually by simply taking out the paragraph style panel, the character style will come together because they are best friends and they work very well together, and we'll see in a second how. The different way in which you can bring out the panel, as I said, either to go under Window, Styles, and make sure that you select paragraph styles and the character style will come along, or you can head under your properties panel and select this little icon here, which it looks like a paragraph, and click and then select paragraph styles. Of course, mine are already ticked because I have the panels already out, but that's how you bring out your panels in order to have them there and play with your styles. Now, what happens if I want to make this text keep it on the same style, so with the same font, with the same space after as the name of the client, but I want to make sure that for the location and the details we have a different colors. As I said, all we have to do is to create a new character style, and then let's double click, and I'm going to call this one blue. And then under character colors, I can go ahead and perhaps select the same darker blue that I've selected for the text and press on OK. And then as you can see, it doesn't disrupt the next style at all. All you need to make sure is that then you select the text in which you want to apply the character style, just like so. And as usual, you can override this certain characteristic of the paragraph style. So this is the main difference. The paragraph style sets the main rules of styling, and of course the next styles belong to the character, to the paragraph styles, while the character styles will allow you to make some changes. And let's go ahead and see what changes in particular we can make. So if I go back and double click into the character style that I created, we can see that we have some basic formats like the fonts, the font size, the kerning.
Kladi, we have 1 minute.
The space within size. I was just giving some more information, but that's what I wanted to share with you. So I hope that was useful, that you enjoyed these next styles, and that was my tip and rework it today. So thank you so much for joining us. We're gonna see each other after Max. So submit the work. Isn't it correct?
Yeah, I was gonna say we're back on the 4th of November, so make sure you submit your work. We would love to see more Illustrator and InDesign files, but of course, if you have Photoshop files, please submit them as well.
Yes, and we look forward to see your work. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bye.
Thank you so much.